Welcome to the fifth video in our introduction to selling on eBay, beginning your market research. In this video, I'm going to talk you through getting started doing research for your eBay business. In marketing, there's the general rule that you want to focus in. You want to find and research something that people are buying now. Then you want to supply that product to those willing customers or prospects. Rather than just guessing what people want, you actually are paying attention to what people are buying, and then you make money by simply offering it to them. You're really getting in front of their desire to buy whatever it is that they want to buy. As an example, as I record this, the Apple iPod is still a very hot product. So if there was a way to get iPods inexpensively and sell them at a good, profitable price, that's obviously an easy way to make money because there's a huge market there. Of course, there are distribution issues. I'm not entirely clear how Apple distributes iPods, but you would need to become a wholesaler to purchase them cheaply in large quantities, so there's a whole bunch of issues there, but that makes the fundamental point. The problem with an eBay business, though, is that you certainly can find what people want to buy, but you may not be able to supply it, as you can see with the iPod example. But you really don't want to invent a market or try to create demand, because that's really an uphill battle and not an easy way to build a business. You have to find what people want, of course, but you also have to match it up with your real ability to supply what they want. In this video, I won't talk you through actually finding the products, but those are two keys to the problem. You have to find what people want, and you have to be able to source that, either through a wholesale arrangement, a drop shipping arrangement, or whatever. You have to be able to offer the product to your customers if they want to buy from you. And obviously, you want to be able to source the product at a price where you can make a profit, or at the very least break even on the front end, or the initial sale, so that you can create a customer and then follow up with him or her and make more money on the back end, on the repeat sales. So those are a number of things to keep in mind. But initially, I'm going to get started in this video just with some basic research. You could say that in a way, eBay reflects the Internet, and the Internet generally reflects people's shopping patterns. People want certain things, and they want them preferably at certain prices. So if something is popular on the Internet, then it's probably going to be popular on eBay. Obviously, something to bear in mind with eBay is that people often want that product cheaper than elsewhere. That's often why people go to eBay, because it can be a bit hit and miss purchasing on eBay because you don't know who you're purchasing from, if they're reputable, and so on and so forth. So you take slightly more risk when you buy on eBay just to get things cheaper than you would in a local store. So to do internet-wide research, or actually just before we get there, let's say you want to come up with an idea, and let's say you write down a whole bunch of ideas. When you write down ideas, don't limit yourself. Don't just stick to a few ideas, or otherwise you'll really limit yourself and limit your business. Write down all sorts of ideas, even if they don't particularly interest you for things you can sell on eBay. Obviously, this list will keep growing over time. Then you can look through eBay and look at various categories. For example, I have no knowledge of antiques, but as far as I know, antiques are a hot product, a hot category off eBay, or in the real world, so to speak, and also online and on eBay. So that would be a potential idea for me. But just as obviously, antiques is pretty broad, so you may want to click and drill down. And here are some subcategories: antiquities, classical, American, musical instruments, primitives, furniture, and so on. For example, let's be quite specific and say antique bookcase. Otherwise, if you search for something too broad, if you search just for antique, it's going to be so broad that the numbers won't mean much to you. You have to think of something you can potentially sell. So when you search for that, don't get too niche, don't get too specific, because then the numbers of people interested will be very low. So in this instance, I'm keeping it somewhat broad. I'm not saying, for example, antique mahogany bookcase. That's too specific. Keeping it a bit broader, I'm sticking with just antique bookcase. Okay, there are a couple of tools we can use to do internet-wide searches just to see how popular that search phrase and related search phrases are. First of all, there's Keyword Selector tool. The address you can go to is here, inventory.overture.com, and it just redirects you to this full address. So if I search for antique bookcase, and that should be a button, but it hasn't appeared, so let's just click the Go button. This tool used to belong to Overture.com, but Overture was bought out by Yahoo, so now it's called Yahoo Search Marketing. Essentially, Yahoo Search Marketing is a pay-per-click advertising platform, and they just provide this free tool that allows you to do some keyword research. Okay, so in January of 2007, searches for antique bookcase, 943 searches. This is just across the Yahoo network, not across the whole internet, so obviously this is a very broad figure, and you may potentially wish to triple it to get a better idea of internet-wide searches, but to be honest, I don't know how accurate that rule of thumb is either. Anyway, so here we have antique bookcase, antique lawyer bookcase, antique barrister bookcase, and so on. If you click on any of these, you can drill down even more specifically into even more niche keywords. And you can see that there's some duplication here too. Anyway, it gives you a real idea of how potentially popular things are. As an example, let's take antique lawyer bookcase and copy that, go back to eBay, and paste in, and see if anyone is selling that, and see what's going on. Okay, 0. That's just too specific, too niche. So let's delete lawyer and see if we get anything there. 3. Okay, so there isn't a lot going on, but these are some auctions that you can potentially keep an eye on to see what's happening in this product area. And out of these auctions, one has 4 days left, another has 5 days left, and this one has another 12 hours to go. And there are 2 bids, so people do buy, but actually you can see that this isn't even a bookcase, is it? I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it appears to be just a book. Let's just take a quick deeper look, and it's a hydrometer in a case that has a book with it, but it's actually not a bookcase, so it isn't really relevant to this example. So let's go back. Okay, antique walnut bookcase. Interestingly, they include bookcase as one word and as 2 words to cover themselves however people enter the spelling when they do their eBay search. This way it would appear in both instances. And the other is matched antique barrister bookcase. Okay, let's search for bookcase as one word to see if we get more results. And we get a lot more. So very few people were running an auction with what amounts to a misspelling of bookcases as 2 words. As a buyer on eBay, you can get bargains sometimes searching for misspellings like that because relatively few people come across them and few people bid on them. So that's something to bear in mind when you create your auction listings. Anyway, auctions for antique bookcase, quite a lot of activity. 22 bids, 3 bids, antique Tudor Renaissance curio china cabinet bookcase, and as you can see, there's really quite a lot going on here. I was misled by the initial search. Anyway, you can see that if you were interested in selling to that market, there's actually a market there because a lot of other people are running auctions. So if you could source bookcases at a price that made sense to you, perhaps you could compete. So obviously, you would do research on auctions that are running, keep an eye on them, more on that in a later video, but the whole point is that using the keyword selector tool gives you some broad figures of how many people are searching internet-wide, and also niche terms that you may not have thought of, and more niche products, and then you can do your searches on eBay and see how that compares and exactly what's happening. Lastly, there's another free tool. You can get the paid version of this as well, but there's a trial version which is quite useful. It's wordtracker.com, which has been around for many years. As it says, this is the leading keyword research tool. Even if you don't get the paid version, it's incredibly in-depth and very helpful in understanding keywords and getting related keywords you may not have thought of, and just generally getting a lot of keyword information. Of course, when I say keywords, I mean that keywords are what people search for online. When someone goes into Google and types in "buy cheap bookcase," those are keywords. So keywords and keyword phrases, for example, this is a keyword phrase, this is what people are searching for online. According to Yahoo, 167 people searched their network for this specific keyword phrase in January of 2007. So this is a great way to begin doing research into what you can potentially sell successfully on eBay.